So the ANC first starts with a roadmap towards its elective conference. So at some point, the National Executive Committee met and decided on the different timelines that it needs to follow in order to get to the 16th of December, all the way through to the 20th, when the conference eventually wraps. With this roadmap are guidelines, rules and regulations that members must follow in the process of nominating and electing new leadership, as well as what needs to happen as far as reviewing its policies and adopting new resolutions, which will happen again at the end of December. The cutoff dates for members to also ensure that their membership is in good standing, which means that their membership is not expired, is also put on the table. Members must make sure that they are in good standing throughout. And then you have the branch general meetings. A lot of us journalists speak about the BGMs. These also have a cutoff date in mind. The BGMs are held where members will then start deliberating and proposing names that they want to take the ANC forward. This year we saw at least 2 postponements in the BGM process of the ANC, and what that was is due to multiple reasons. They had technical issues. Staff members at the ANC's headquarters and throughout its offices really were also demonstrating. They were on a go-slow for most of the year because of the non-payment of salary. So those inconsistencies of salaries, load shedding affected some of the meetings, and in some areas members of the ANC themselves were relatively lackluster and did not take well to the process. But ultimately the branch general meetings that had nominations, that were conducting nominations, were finalized on the 7th of November. Once the nominations are finalized, then the electoral committee that's spearheaded by Kgalema Motlanthe, the former deputy president of the ANC, his team, provincial secretaries with regional secretaries as observers, election observers themselves, and some members of the NEC start to consolidate how the different branches across the country have nominated. And that's ultimately the list that we see that's on the ballot. Once they're done with consolidating what the different branches across the country want, they then send an acceptance form to those who've made the cut. These are the top contenders for the different positions. They then on that form are asked if one, they are available to contest for the particular position. So do you want to be president? Do you want to be secretary general of the ANC? Are you available? And if there's a yes, then they ask for things like a CV. What work experience do you have? Have you done any government work? Have you done any other work outside of government? They really are vetting the capabilities of those different members. So ultimately the list that gets published is of those who've made the cut, the top contenders who are now already on the ballot, who've accepted nominations and who will be contesting the conference in December. Now, if you haven't made it onto the ballot, so for instance, the race for president, you've got 2 names at the moment. You've got Cyril Ramaphosa versus William Kiza. But if you are interested in a position like Lindiwe Sisulu, who's nowhere near that cut, she does have an opportunity. There is a gap at the conference where the ANC then opens the process to the floor, where your name can be proposed from the floor. But it's tricky. You need 25% of the delegates gathered there to endorse the proposal. And there, it's not just the province that needs to put you there. You've got provinces that are gathered. You've got the different leagues that are gathered with their provincial executive committees. Even the NEC has voting rights. So you'd need 25% of all those people, at least 4,500 at least of those voting delegates, to back your nomination to get onto the ballot. That's why the ballot in the ANC is printed at the last minute, if you may. They wait for nominations from the floor to be completed before working on a ballot, so that's why the process takes so long. So as I said, there'll definitely be at least 4,500 delegates, meaning you'll need well over 2,200 to win. In a race where there are 2 people, you're looking at 50 plus majority. In a race where there are 3 people contesting one position, such as that of Secretary General, such as the position of Treasurer General, or even Deputy President or National Chairperson, the one with the most numbers wins that particular contest. Now, I did say nominations from the floor are a possibility. Those will happen on the 16th of December, which is day 1 of the national conference. It's also on this day where the different reports will be delivered. So those nominations will take place at the end of day 1 of the conference. So on the 16th of December, we, the public, will have access to a political overview that will be delivered by the president of the ANC, the outgoing president, Cyril Ramaphosa. Other reports will be delivered, such as the organizational and treasurer's report. We will not have access to that as the public. The crucial credentials period, which is really the signing of a register, which can sometimes be a battle that lasts hours and hours on end. We don't have access to that as the public, along with those 2 other reports. But at the end of that day, we are allowed back into the room, at least as media, to watch the nominations that come from the floor. Some of the key positions being contested this year will be won from the floor. That's my prediction. Voting will commence on 17th of December. Here, they will be split into multiple ballots, right? Traditionally, you've had one ballot dealing with the top officials and another one dealing with additional members who form the NEC. This time around, you have the officials being split into 2 ballots and then the additionals at a later stage. The first ballot will deal with 4 positions: the one of President, Secretary General, Treasurer General, and National Chairperson. Deputy President as well as Deputy Secretary General will then go into a second ballot. The reason why the Electoral Committee has introduced this is to try and right some of the wrongs of the ANC. So if you haven't made it into the 4 positions, you have an opportunity to contest the other 2. If ANC delegates have not elected enough women into the structure, they have an opportunity to reflect on whether or not it's the right direction. If they see slate politics taking place, they have an opportunity to rectify that with these 2 other officials. Of course, what follows then are the votes of the additionals. In terms of the results, they will be released as they go along. So by the 17th in the morning, they're likely to start voting for the 4 positions. Into that evening, into the following morning, you'll know who the new ANC president is, and so on and so forth. The conference wraps on the 20th, where the new president of the ANC will deliver a closing address. And of course, it is at that period where you also know what policy positions it has, because the commissions will be happening throughout this period where they break away into different groupings to deliberate on key issues. So what happens with issues of unemployment, energy, social cohesion, what needs to happen with education in the country, the basic income grant, all those discussions about crime in the country, they will be happening at the sidelines in commissions as voting takes place throughout the conference. And at the end, you will have new leadership along with the resolutions that are adopted to better the organization, but most importantly, that will ultimately shape the ANC's offering to the country in 2024 when we go to general elections.